President Trump is not serious about regime change in Venezuela. And the reason why I say that is because Trump was serious about regime change in Venezuela, he would not be talking about clandestine operations in Venezuela. He would not be talking about it publicly. He would not be putting a quote unquote adversary on alert to operations that could or could not be going on in Venezuela currently. If Trump was actually serious about regime change, he wouldn't be talking about it out loud. He wouldn't be making threats. He wouldn't be having these overt displays. So having something that is overt, like the strikes on those boats, right? There's other things that are going on in Venezuela that the United States is involved in, but whatever. What Trump is serious about catering to the people who have power. He is serious about catering or placating the people who have what he needs in order to stay in power, or the people who have the ability to get him out of power. So you have to start looking at where Trump has violated his promises, where he's broken his promises, like releasing the Epstein files, releasing the JFK and MLK files, releasing, I think he did release some of the MLK and JFK. I don't think he released the JFK files, but he released some of the MLK files. But anyways, the Epstein files. What else? Now he's making strikes in Venezuela. Now he's making strikes in Iran, and this peace deal that he's trying to negotiate between Russia and Ukraine. You're having to look at the people who have influence and sway, and who is he trying to placate. When it comes to the strikes in Iran, he's trying to placate Israel, plain and simple. For the last 20, 30 years, Israel has been asking every single United States president to strike Iran, and every single last president has said no. And finally, they found somebody who was willing to say yes. So the question that you have to ask is, why did President Trump say yes? And we all know that the AIPAC lobby is very powerful, very influential, holds a lot, inordinate amount of sway in United States politics, right? When we look at Venezuela and quote unquote regime change that they're talking about, Trump isn't serious about regime change, but what he is serious about is making the people who stand to benefit from regime change in Venezuela, making them happy, or giving the semblance that he's doing something, all while he misdirects them or uses that as misdirection, as a distraction, so that he can do what he needs to do. There's a lot of drugs that come out of South America, and it's not just coming out of Venezuela, it's coming out of Colombia, there's coming out of Mexico. We've talked about how China has provided some of the precursor materials and chemicals that you need for fentanyl, and how a lot of fentanyl is being funneled through these South American countries in order to get to the United States. Those are all things that have been well documented. You don't see him necessarily making overt actions against China, but what you do see him doing is making overt actions against countries like Venezuela. And we can talk about drug piracy and all that, but Venezuela is sitting on oil, sitting on petroleum. Why is petroleum so important? Why is oil so important? Because we make so many products utilizing oil. It's not just the oil that's in your car that you use to lubricate your engine. It's not just the gasoline that you put in your car. It's not just the diesel that we put in our commercial vehicles, in our trucks, our big rigs, and our semis. It's not just those things. It's the Vaseline that we put on our lips. It's the plastics that are on all of our electronics that are petroleum-based products. There's petroleum-based products in our food. We use oil for so many things, and so that becomes valuable. That becomes extremely valuable. And so the whole narrative about counter piracy, counter drug, and going after nautical terrorism and all of that, like that's all it's all smoke and mirrors. At the end of the day, it's about money and it's about power with Trump. And particularly, I'm one of the people that thinks that Trump is actually serious about having a third term. The constitutional challenges go to the Supreme Court. It's a constitutional issue dealing with the president and executive powers that, in my analysis, that there is a very real possibility that Trump can have a third term and not run afoul of the 25th Amendment. There's a very real possibility, very real possibility. And you see a lot of the things that Trump is doing, renaming U.S., the Institute for Peace, calling it the Trump Institute for Peace. All right, that's kind of new. You usually name things after presidents, after they've left office, making his birthday a holiday, removing Juneteenth and MLK as federal holidays. That's something that I just read. I have to go back and check to make sure, right? And the thing is I feel like those are dog whistles for black people. We're gonna go after MLK Day. All right, well, whatever. That's how black people really should take it. But when you take all of those things in, not just by themselves, but if you take them in their totality, it's something to be worried about. But what we as Americans, what we as black Americans should be concerned about is, where are my tax dollars going? What are my tax dollars being used for? This is why blockchain technology in voting is so critical, not in the sense of, oh, well, we're going to put all the votes on chain, but literally, hey, the blockchain being utilized as a way of grading your politicians, a way of you as a voter being able to say, this is where I want my dollars going. And your representative saying, hey, this is what my constituents say that they want. And you as a constituent get to see whether or not your politician is voting according to your interests. So right now, it takes a lot of research. It takes a whole lot of research in order to be able to do that. And with blockchain and AI systems, we can streamline and make that a lot easier. And two, be able to have a direct connection with your voters and with the voting base. So instead of you voting based upon party, you as a voter can literally look at the issues and see what's actually important to you and see if your politician is actually speaking to those issues, speaking to your concerns, which is really what we need in America. We can talk all about, oh, well, our government is unaccountable, because our government has gotten so big and so complex that the current civics lesson, yeah, it works, but where are you going to get your information from? Why is it that I have to go to a source like Washington Post and the New York Times and all them to be able to get information about my government? And that information is supposed to be open. And part of being open is being accessible. Part of being open is being easily digestible. And they can hide things right in plain sight, because most of us don't know that the information exists. If we do know that it exists, we don't know where to find it. If we do know where to find it, we don't know the proper channels and ways to be able to access it. So there are layers of security that they're able to prevent information from being out there. And then by the time that you've gone through that entire process, they're on to the next thing. If we want better government, we have to create better systems. And this is where, it's like the Lord gave me this idea some years ago. And it's like seeing these problems and seeing these issues and like building a real solution for it. I guess it's time. I've been running away from a lot of things that he's been putting on my heart. So I need to just go ahead and go and do it. So that's that, yeah.